How you doing? I'm Erik Audé. I wrote the book 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. If you haven't seen it on Locked Up Abroad or my documentary, 3 Years in Pakistan, you should check it out on Amazon. Also, I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Erik Audé.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. So you have a wild story.
Well, I mean, everyone's got something. Mine's just a little different than most, you know?
A little different. You've been on the verge of, I don't know many people that would go to a place that you went to.
Well, I mean, I'm what my family likes to call the worst case scenario, you know? So I'm the example for other people to, this is what will happen if you do it this way. I've made every mistake in life you can make, but the great thing about it is I've learned from them all. So if other people can learn from my mistakes, then they weren't mistakes done in vain, you know?
Yeah. So where were you born and raised?
I was born in LA at Cedar Sinai, just across the street from Beverly Hills. And I was raised there in the early years, but then I moved up to the Antelope Valley where I was there for my teen years. And then I immediately moved back down to LA for work and acting and stunts. That's something that I've always wanted to do my whole life. And I've been doing most of my life since I was 12.
So you were involved with movies before this whole situation happened.
Yeah, I was a working actor, stuntman. I was paying all my bills, just acting and doing stunts. I was making it happen. I was, you know, wasn't like I wasn't rich or anything, but I was able to, you know, date, have fun, go on vacations, and pay all my bills. I was living very comfortably.
So before this, do you get in any trouble?
I mean, as kid stuff, when I was a kid, I got arrested for stupid things. Like my cousins and I got arrested for egging cars when I was 13. One of the guys caught us and took us to the police station. You know, we deserved it. We got our asses beat. We absolutely deserved it. And then I got arrested when I was 15 after a football game because some douchebag was throwing rocks at our cheerleaders over near the snack bar. So I stepped in. He was 19. And we both got arrested. This is up in Bishop. I got arrested when I was I got arrested when I was 19 for possession of stolen property, which I was absolutely innocent of. A girl I was dating took her mom's friend's cell phone, ran up a bill. This is back in '99, so before there was like good cell phone plans. She ran up a $3,000 bill on her mom's friend's cell phone. And I would go down there and visit with her in the summers, and I had a very messy car. So she left her bag with all her like bikinis and clothes in the backseat of my car. And inside was also the cell phone that she was running up charges on her mom's friend. Because it was in my possession when I learned about it. Because she tried to not take the blame when her mom's friend came looking for it. She's like, I don't know, maybe Erik has it. And then when a detective contacted me, I thought nothing of it. He's like, there might be a bag in your car. Like, he knew specifics. He was like, there might be a bag in your car. Would you mind going look? And I go and I look. And inside, and he goes, is there a phone in there? I'm like, yeah, there's a phone. Boom, I just admitted to possession of stolen property. I was 19. I didn't think anything was wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I had to get a lawyer. I had to fight it. It cost me $11,000 of money that, you know, I'd saved up all taken. And I was proven innocent because she came to court and says, oh, he didn't steal it. I gave it to him, which is the lie, too. She left it in the car, but she was, you know, that took off, I guess, whatever it was.
Culpability on her. She didn't want to take responsibility. Right?
It was messed up what happened. I was mad. And then I was like, I'm going to sue her and all this stuff. And my own mom was like, Erik, but she could have lied. And she was right. She could have lied because I was looking at like 1 to 3 years in jail for some bullshit cell phone that had a high phone bill on. Like, they were going to throw the book at me. And they kept trying to give me like deals, like pleading in and out. Just pay the fine. You get, you know, like probation. It'll just be a misdemeanor. And I'm like, I didn't do this. I'm going to fight this to the end. And because I was hard-headed and I didn't want to admit for something I didn't do, I was looking at 1 to 3 years in jail for a cell phone I never even knew about or used once. It was fucked up. So I got arrested for that, but I was declared innocent, beat the charges, and then I got arrested down in TJ with my friends. My friends, I mean, I've been in a lot of trouble, but for stupid things. One of my friends was hitting on this girl at the bar, and there was a sailor who was hitting on the same girl, and they started fighting. So me and my boys went to defend my friend, and him and his boys defended their friends. So we're fighting these sailors in this bar down at TJ. We all got arrested, and we ended up getting thrown in a little prison down there in TJ, where they had a tamale cart inside, and some guy you'd pay cigarettes to like cook the chickens for you, because they throw
Tijuana, right? You're in
yeah,
Tijuana?
we're in
Oh, man.
we're in Tijuana, and they would throw all these chickens in their courtyard, and you had to like corral your own chickens, and then you paid the tamale guy cart a pack of cigarettes to pluck it and cook it for you. And it ended up being one of the funnest weekends I ever had, where me and these sailors who all got arrested, we all became buddies. It was, it's a fun experience.
And you were a stuntman too. That plays a major role in this story.
Well,
You were in shape.
I've always wanted to be a stuntman my whole life. All right, I didn't want to be an actor. Wanted to be a stuntman since I can remember. Since I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a stuntman. But it's harder to become a stuntman than it is to become an actor. I had to become an actor to become a stuntman, and so I would have to book an audition and book my own roles, and then just be adamant about doing all my own stunts. So I always got like bully or jock or very physical roles: football player, wrestler, hockey player. And when the action would happen and all the other actors came off the field or off the court, they'd be like, "Where's Audé?" And you're like, "He's still out there." And I'd be out there with the other stunt guys just going at it, because that's what I wanted to do. I was always very physical. My drug of choice in life was the gym. I would be at the gym just 2 to 3 hours 5 days a week, and I would do my homework at the gym in between sets, because I lived in the Antelope Valley. I did not want to grow up I didn't want to live in the Antelope Valley. I hated it. The Antelope Valley sucks, right? And anyone who lives there now, they can pretend that it's amazing. It's not. The Antelope Valley is where you go if you have no dreams in life, or you're a sex offender, or you want to cook meth. That's what you do in the Antelope Valley. There is nothing great about the Antelope Valley whatsoever. It's a place you go for your dreams to die. And that the great thing about the Antelope Valley being so rough and awful and hot and just miserable is that it helps inspire you to get out of there. So I was at the gym every day. I wanted to be a stuntman. I wanted to be smart. I took my studies seriously, and I took my working out extremely seriously. And I wanted to get a full ride scholarship to go to to go to any kind of college. Unfortunately, I played for a very small school, and I was getting partial scholarships, but I played for a very small school that no one really ever took us seriously, even though I broke a record in California that still stands today for the most tackles by a defensive end. This was back in '96, a long time ago. But yeah. I had 147 tackles in 11 games. It's video game numbers. It'll never happen. And that was for a defensive end, a defensive lineman. I mean, if I was a strong safety, maybe. A linebacker, sure. But for a lineman, those are video game numbers. And so universities were interested in me. They wanted me to play, but no one was willing to give me a full ride scholarship. And I got into all the Ivy League schools that I applied to. I mean, I was recruited by Princeton, Cornell, Brown, but they didn't have any athletic scholarships. They had academic scholarships, but no athletic scholarships. And then when I would see that the cost to go to these schools were like almost $100,000. This is back in the '90s, so that was a ridiculous amount of money. I'm sure it's way more now today. And I was thinking, like, man, I'm already making $5K a week on these shows that I'm booking. Why would I want to pay $100,000 out of my pocket just to play football and get an education when I'm already making a good living doing what I'm doing? So I just focused on stunts and acting, and I started booking roles and co-stars, guest stars, reoccurring stunt work. And the phone was ringing. I was in the same room with some of the biggest talent in Hollywood, people that would go on to do big things. I was up for Not Another Teen Movie against Chris Evans. I was up for Kelso on the '70s show. I went to network for that. Ashton Kutcher got the role. I was up against Josh Hartnett for the Virgin Suicides. It came down to me and him for the Sofia Coppola movie. And I was up for Varsity Blues. I ended up doing stunts on Varsity Blues, but I was up for The Quarterback that went to James Vanderbeek. And I was also up for, I want to say Tweeter, who went to Scott Conn. And I was right there in the mix, and I was always very close for these big roles that could have been game changers. It came down to me and I want to say Howie Stevens, who got for the Reba, and he's a great guy, great actor. And I ended up getting the role of his best friend for a couple episodes, and then I ended up getting arrested in Pakistan for a crime I did not commit. And at the time that I got arrested, uh, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but you watched the show Locked Up Abroad last night. That's why you reached out to me, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Locked Up Abroad, I don't, whenever anyone asks me, like, what should they watch or read to know my story, I never, ever tell them to read Locked Up Abroad. And the reason is because Locked Up Abroad, they came after me after I got back from Pakistan for every year. They came back the first year, the second year. They wanted me to do the show, but the few episodes that I had watched, everyone on that show was guilty. You know, they were all knowing drug smugglers. They were all knowing criminals who just, you know, they were in another country's prison. I was 100% innocent. I never did drugs. I wasn't even a drinker. Like I said, the only things I did in life was working out, studying, hot girls with low self-esteem. Those were my vices in life.
Yeah.
And when I saw Locked Up Abroad and they came after me and they're like, we want you to be on the show. And I watched a few of the episodes. Like they sent me a bunch of episodes even before the show even aired, like one episode. And I watched them like, all these assholes are guilty. Why would I want to be on the show? They're like, well, so you can tell your story. And I was having a lot of meetings with all these production companies, Paramount Vantage, MTV. I was going to like, you know, all these different studios to tell my story and, you know, to see who would want to make it. And the problem back in the day is they didn't want to tell my story because they didn't, you know, they didn't like that an American guy. It was like, you know, I got arrested right after 9/11. All right, a couple months right after 9/11, before, during, and after the Afghan and Iraqi war. And for whatever reason, like people thought it was a great story and everything, but they were like, you know, it's not really capturing us. I was literally told by MTV that they wanted me to be a knowing drug smuggler, like a big guy in an enterprise, and then I get arrested and tell the story from that way. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Fuck that. And they offered me a lot of money to do that too, but I'm like, I was on death row for a crime I didn't commit. I was offered a deal, plead guilty, pay the judge off, and go home. And you guys think I'm going to sell out now for some money to tell everyone that I was guilty for a crime I didn't commit? I fuck off.
Yeah, they're torturing you, right?
Yeah, I was on death row and I still refused to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. Like, anyway, so Locked Up Abroad's like, we want you to do the show. I didn't want to do the show. 6 seasons go by and I start acting again and doing stunts and I'm doing well. And they see an episode of the show, the event that I had done where I was a guest star on it. And I guess the producer saw that and they're like, you're actually good. What if we let you play yourself? And I was like, oh shit, okay. Because what better asshole to play this asshole than this asshole? And that's how I always looked at it. So I did the show Locked Up Abroad, played myself like a douchebag. And the problem with Locked Up Abroad is it's a very popular show. It's not just in America, it's worldwide. It's in every country and every language. They took a 13-hour rushed interview that I did and crammed it into 48 minutes. And they only took the exciting stuff out of there. They didn't explain how I was the way I was. They just made it look like I walked into the prison and just went to war with everyone. And
started beating everyone up, throwing them around.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat true, but there's way more to it than that. And unfortunately for me, the internet, you know, everyone on the internet thinks they're 7 feet tall. So I was getting emails from all over the world, people telling me I'm a liar, kill myself, they kick my ass. No one's ever said that shit to my face, though. In over 20 years of being out, I still have yet to have one person have the balls to come up to my face and call me a fucking liar and anything else. So I thought that would have happened many times, but it hasn't happened once. And I'm glad it hasn't, because I mean, if I'm going back to jail, I'm going to make it worth it. That's all.
It sounds unbelievable. I could see where people would be like, he's full of shit, because it sounds unbelievable.
Oh no! When I would tell my, when I first got back, I came back with just the clothes on my back, and I had no way of, you know, making money, and I took like whatever job I can get. I mean, I would get some work, like some stunt work, some acting jobs, but I needed to. I was starting from scratch. I had like producer friends of mine saying, "Hey, we're doing some reality shows. We're, you know, like trials. And they weren't like sold yet, but they were trying to like pitch them to the studios." And I would go down to Sony and be one of the contestants. And one of the shows was who's telling the truth. And there was like me and like 6 other people, and they would give everyone else like a scenario. Like one was a doctor who accidentally lost their Rolex inside a patient. One was a lesbian or a girl who looked like a lesbian who got kicked out of the military for being a lesbian. This is back in 2005. And then one was like a teacher who got fired for sleeping with a student, and they had to like embellish these lies and keep them because they were just giving those lies. And whoever like is able to successfully convince the audience that it's them would win money. And if I'm able to convince the audience that I'm the one telling the truth, that I would like win the money. And it was like it was a pilot. No one was asking me any questions because all it said was I said like my thing was I was arrested in Pakistan for a crime I didn't commit, and I spent 3 years in jail in Pakistan. I was on death row, was tortured for information I didn't have. And then they went on to everyone else, and everyone kept asking everyone else all these questions to punch holes in their stories and everything from the audience. And then they were able to all start punching holes in each other's questions. And no one was asking me any questions because they had already assumed that there's no way my story was real. And so they moved on to the other 5 people and it was hysterical. I'm like, there's no way for me to ever win this show because no one asked me any questions. Yeah. And like one person asked me one question just for the hell of it. They're like, all right, well, how much is $1 in Pakistan? I'm like, well, it's at the time it would fluctuate. It was about 60 rupees, but it usually goes down to 58 up to 62. So $1 was 60 rupees. 500 was just less than $10. And then someone's like, well, where is Pakistan located? I'm like, Pakistan's borders India, Northwest Frontier Province. You got China to the north. You got Iran and Iraq to the west. And then people started asking more questions, but no one still believed my story whatsoever. And I tell people, if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe it either. It's one of those kind of stories.
Wait, the judge wanted $10 to let you go?
Where'd you get that from?
The rupees. 500 rupees. Didn't he want 500 rupees?
You said the judge, though.
Oh, it wasn't there a judge that was telling you plead guilty and pay me off? Wasn't there?
Yeah, but not for 500 rupees.
Oh, how much did he want?
The first judge wanted $125,000 for my acquittal.
Wow.
U.S., not rupees, U.S. And so all that's in the book. The good thing about it is I wrote a book. It's took me 2 years to write, 7 years to edit. It's called 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. And the reason I wrote this book is because every time I would get a ghostwriter, they would waste 3-4 months of my time, me telling my story, and then they couldn't get any. Like they would try to take my story to publishing houses to try to get an advance to write it, and no one was giving advances, so they would lose interest and move on. And I did this several times. I'm thinking like 7-8 different ghostwriters. Finally, I just given up. I was like, I'm just moving on with my life. I'm acting, I'm stunting, I'm opening up restaurants, I'm playing poker for a living. And everyone kind of knew of my story, but no one knew of my story. Until one day I was doubling an actor named Craig Schaefer. He was the quarterback in the movie The Program, and we were having a dinner off on one of our off nights up in Utah, and he actually knew my story. He realized he knew me, but he didn't know why he knew me. He had watched the stupid episode of Locked Up Abroad, and so he was like asking me a bunch of questions. He's like, "When's that book coming out?" And I told him the problems I was having with finding a writer. He's like, "Why don't you write that book?" And him being adamant and kind of pushing me kind of gave me the fire to get the confidence to write my own book. And so I wrote a chapter. I emailed it to him. He's like, "This is great. Keep going." He kind of like just supported me along the way as I wrote my own story. It was easier to tell my story to like I was telling it to him, but I was doing it all through emails and paper. And it took me 2 years of doing that. And thanks to him that I did it. But then it took me 7 years to edit it because I couldn't get an editor to edit it the way that I wanted it to be. When I tell stories, I go on tangents. I go on like side missions and everything. And some people are like, just get to the heart of the story. I'm like, it'll make sense in a second. Just let me tell my thing. It's just the way I am. I have to tell you a few different things before I get on track. And that's how my book is. And it's it's in my own words. It is literally my life story. It's my diary, and I put it out there, and anyone who's taken the time to read it and get past at least page 3 has actually seemed to like it.
Is it self-published? Self-published?
I self-published it. I put it on Amazon, and then I did the audiobook myself. The audiobook's everywhere. It's also under the same title, 3 Years in Pakistan. And the reason I did this is because no one else is willing to do it. Just like with Locked Up Abroad. Locked Up Abroad dropped the ball so bad and put me in such a target from people around the world to just abuse me, talk shit, that I had to go and do my own documentary the way that I felt that it needed to be told. because of how bad Locked Up Abroad told my story and how much stuff they left out, I went and did my own documentary, which is free on Amazon Prime. It's on YouTube. It's also called 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. And it's in my own words. It's the way that I felt that it told the story better. And so anyone who actually hated me from Locked Up Abroad but took the time to watch 3 Years in Pakistan did a 180. Like, I had people who were, calling me a liar and a piece of shit and a little bitch, who actually came back to me after watching my documentary and going, look, it makes so much more sense now. I'm sorry. And I've yet to have anyone go out of the way to talk shit or hate on me who's watched 3 Years in Pakistan. What happened to me could have happened to anyone. For me, it was a free trip. It was an opportunity to travel the world and get paid a little bit of money.